everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of the Bao Podcast. Today, our guest is Xavier Leclair. Xavier is founder and CEO of Slow Cabins. Slow Cabins is a Belgian company that allows guests to rent cabins placed in secret locations across the countryside. And they have plans to soon expand the concept throughout Belgium and Europe. These slow cabins are temporary eco-houses that are completely self-sufficient when it comes to water and electricity provisions. In a slow cabin, there is no internet as well, which means that you can slow down and break free from the stress of everyday life. Hello, Xavier. First of all, thanks for being here, and how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm fine, sunny day.
Yes, indeed. It's beautiful weather.
I'm rather slow.
You're rather slow?
No. It's beautiful weather. So, excellent. Lots of sun, lots of energy.
Beautiful.
Definitely in an off-grid environment, it's lots of sun is very good.
Indeed. It's a nice refreshment in comparison with a couple of weeks ago when it was nothing but rain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Xavier, once again, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I think today we're going to talk a bit about the business that you are building, Slow Cabins. And I think it's always interesting to start at the beginning. And maybe more specifically, I was wondering, because during the research for this recording, I saw that you did your studies in law. You got a master in law. And then today you're doing something completely different from what you studied. And I think it's very interesting to dive a little bit more deeper into how did you end up doing slow cabins and how did that pivot from law to what you're currently doing happened?
Yeah, it's correct. My background is a legal background. And I still use it from time to time. But indeed, I've been pivoting completely away from the traditional lawyer. But after the legal part, I was mostly interested in the more international aspects. So international businesses, sustainability, and actually my dream when I graduated, I think, when was it? Around 2001. It's quite long already, but getting old. Was to become a diplomat.
Okay.
And I had still that big dream of solving the Palestine-Israeli conflict. So
it's an ambitious dream.
When you're young, you have bold dreams, and so I did some international assignments in international organization, commission, etc. And very exciting times. But I realized also after the time that just working in this environment, it's very, very interesting from content-wise, but your impact on the real issues you want to steer on, your dream of the world, how you see the world, it's rather small. So we're now 20 years later, and the conflict is just the same as more than 40, 50 years ago, nearly. So after that, I start working in the more corporate world, and it's actually only as of 2017, just after my latest delegation with BASF. So I've been working for exactly 10 years in an international company. And my last assignment in the Netherlands, when I was delegated there, was mainly on sustainability and new business modeling and let's say the position of the company. And there I got in contact with this very fascinating Dutch market, but also on sustainability more, and completely passionate and want to get more into the entrepreneurial vibes. And that's where the whole story started.
So you were working for BASF?
Yes.
Okay.
So 10 years starting in Antwerp. They have one of the biggest production plants, and then afterwards shifting to Germany, and then also ending up in the Netherlands. And interesting is that BASF, because I still, let's say, somehow also this work it sometimes still inspires me in the sense of they've called this kind of Verbund, which is a kind of autonomous way of everything is connected, very sufficient, and you can actually make also the link to Slow Cabins. So we have been creating also our own mini Verbund, so a kind of autonomous system, a little eco cabin which is completely off grid and which you can place at what we call secret destinations nearby hectic cities where people can just relax and rewind.
Keep the mic a little bit closer. Yeah, perfect.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Verbund, you learned about the concept of Verbund also in the Netherlands.
No, Verbund is just, that's from the BASF part.
Okay.
When I was, Verbund is actually, it's everything connected to each other.
Okay.
No, the idea of starting with Slow Cabins, it started in 2015 when I was in the Netherlands, and when I was actually a bit researching from why all those big companies are also very close to universities. And you have the Unilevers, the Campinas near Wageningen University, for example. And during that journey, I met some very inspiring people, and they got me completely into the vibes of starting your own business. And so that's how it started. But it has nothing to do with Verbund.
Okay, and the idea of Slow Cabins itself, where did that originate from? Yeah. Because it's one thing to get introduced to entrepreneurial people, but then to get this, I think, kind of genius idea to start this concept of Slow Cabins. How did that happen?
It's partly of academic research. At that time, what's academic research? Because I dropped some of the ideas that I had in a university, and so a group of students starts researching it. So it's from the very lean startup principles, that not a lot of cost. Instead of getting to the big 5 consultancies, you start just with a little idea, and you try to find out from what works. Doing interviews, other academic research, etc. So on the one hand, you had, let's say, the research which has been done from quite leading university, but on the other hand, it's also very close to my own personal interest and my affinity. So what I call a bit sometimes the ikigai. I don't know if you know the word. It's where you feel yourself well at ease. On the one hand,
it's Japanese concept, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it actually has these 4 pillars. And on the one hand, it's where you're good at yourself, what you think you're good at. On the one hand, for what you want to get paid, so in life. But on the other hand, also what the world or the broader thing needs, and how you want to find your own purpose. Yeah.
So you were looking to start a business with the ikigai concept in mind.
With the ikigai, so the business was created from academic research, and also I have a very strong interest in nature and in hospitality. And I got also inspired from when I'm traveling, or was traveling also in the past around. I got nervous from very dense places, all standardized, mass, sweaty people, and everybody is doing the same. We're just traveling to a country or to a city because it's recommended on the Instagram or whatever, and we need to do that. So I said, let's try to change the perspective. So instead of just booking.com or the Airbnbs of these worlds, why not changing the perspective and say from, okay, this is secret, we take you up to a journey. It's part of this more experience economy. But on the other hand, a cabin. So we had been doing some research also on the product itself, of course, before we designed it. And so it was in line with the trends, the global trends you're seeing from people want to live smaller, smarter, more sustainable. And if you have an affinity with nature, and I think many people nowadays also have care more about nature. Definitely in these mad COVID times, people get completely inspired by nature, walking, hiking. And that's how it started.
So you gathered together your interests in nature, hospitality, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You sit down and you make a list of potential business ideas that come up, and then you go to a university and you say, guys, these are my ideas, work something out. Is that how it went?
Something like that. So actually I've been doing 6 projects over 1 year and a half. So when I was still, it was in my, by the way, in my spare time. So when I was still working for my previous employer, but I just dropped the ideas, and all kind of inspiration came out of it, and from that you start puzzling. And actually the slow cabins, which what it is now, so slow cabins, what is it? It's we design and build and mainly rent out off-grid eco-design cabins, and we put them in nature, secret places close to cities, to help people detox and relax from the hectic life. But that's the concept, how it will grow over time. But it started actually with the research from what kind of business opportunities exist in the broader around slow and nature. And so all kind of ideas came. And then
what were some other ideas?
Sorry?
What were some other ideas?
So, for example, one of the ideas was from, why not having this kind of new platform? Let's try to build an own platform for specific niche accommodations in mountains far away from hectic. And that's actually our first the first MVP, minimal viable product. Actually, it still exists. It's offline. It's online, but it's not working. It's slow holiday homes. So it was just a platform, very simple, where you find some accommodations, barns, very more aesthetic accommodations. And we did there also test with cabin at that time. And so it's talking about 2015 or 16. And we saw there's some interesting ticks. And then at that time we decided also to pivot from slow holiday homes, from a more platform towards really the concept of slow cabins. So from slow holiday homes to slow cabins.
Okay. When and so then you let these students do the research, and they come up, or the results are like, this is a great idea.
Yeah, of course you give some guidance.
Okay.
So you pose a big, broader questions from, please research what kind of business opportunities exist into this niche.
Okay.
And they come up with it. Or, we even had from how should the ideal eco-design cabin look like for specific natural parks. So that has been actually inspiring ourselves also to set up the ideal specs for creating a cabin.
Okay, and this was in 2016,
I think.
16. Okay, and then they give you the results, and then do you immediately decide, I want to try this? Was it like an instant?
No, so you got inspired. It's a journey, huh?
Okay.
It's a filthy word. It's a journey.
Yeah.
No, you got inspired from that, and then you you just continue. You see yourself. Okay, there might be an opportunity, and then at a certain time, you just put out the plug. How do you call it? And you said, okay, now I'll jump.
Okay.
And I'll really start setting up my own business. So that's the most difficult, of course. I think yourself, you're also an entrepreneur. I don't know if you have been working before also in a more corporate environment.
No, this was so when we started Bao Living, it was our thesis at the university.
Okay.
So we graduated, and then 2 days later, when our hangover was somewhat gone, we went back to the university and we got a small little space.
Okay.
Like it's not even a classroom, it was smaller than that, up in the attic of the university, and they gave it to us for a year. And we could work from there. So 2 days after graduation, we were just back at the university, and we started working.
But that's a younger generation. I'm already from generation from the 70s, etc.
Yeah.
No, but for me, the toughest was actually to make the jump.
Right.
Because at that time I was nearly 40. And of course, it feels very comfortable. You have a nice life with a nice family, with your kids, your wife. At that time, we were in the Netherlands, very inspiring country. And then, you just decide, okay, I will do something completely different, and you have no securities. Everything is gone.
Were you still working?
Quite shocking.
Yeah, I can imagine. Were you still working at BASF?
No, of course. When I stopped at BASF, the day afterwards,
But before you stopped, you were still working at BASF.
I was doing in my spare time also some research. In my on the business concept.
How did they respond on the home front when you said, I want to quit, I want to start a business? When you're 40 years old and you have a family.
Quite nervous, and it's sometimes still. Let's say people ask me, hey, why did you do it? Because it might look from the front side very nice, and everything is nice, and everybody should just start becoming an entrepreneur. But on the other hand, there's also lots of pains, what people often forget. And lots of pains. It's more about resilience sometimes. From you got one hit, and the more hits you get, the more resilient you become. So that's the reality. So in the beginning, lots of questions on that, lots of insecurity, and then even after a few months, because in the beginning there is nothing, and why are you doing this? Aren't you making your life much more complex than it is? But then I found out that also my ikigai, it was just to become an entrepreneur. I feel well at it because I'm actually not slow. I'm more from the energetic, even call it ADHD type. So for me, the slow world is also kind of. It's my own therapy, as I say sometimes. So I'm working on my ideal worlds where I can just relax.
It's kind of funny indeed, because if you have ADHD and then you are creating environments to slow down in, there's a beautiful contradiction in there.
But it's my ideal world. It says so you were actually working to your ideal world while you would like to end up.
Yeah, it's
so
beautiful.
That's why I say it's my kind of therapy.
So it actually was,
and that's the ikigai. So
right.
That's why, because it brings together all things from yourself, from the world, what you see, and that's where I felt at ease. That's the concept. That's where I want to do the coming the coming years.
Yeah, it's recognizable in a sense that I don't know if you know the famous blogger and podcaster Tim Ferriss, but he's an American guy, one of the bigger business podcasts in the world, and he always says that if you start a business, do something that at least you really want, because then you already have a market of one.
Yes.
And it's something that always stuck to me. Because before Bao, I also had a couple of other businesses going from a pop-up bar, and it was the same idea. Like that, if there's something that you really want and it's not there, then surely other people probably also have that pain. Okay, so you quit your job in 2017, and then what's the next step? How do you start from there? You quit your job, so
and then. We practice a bit, and still we used to practice it. So the lean startup theory, which means very fast iterations, lots of focus on the learnings, and trying to get to this completely product market fit as quickly as possible. And so we started with actually kind of cabins which maybe were not completely optimized. And then, we started from scratch, and actually we launched during a festival of architecture in Antwerp, where we're now. We're very grateful and thankful. It was just like a Deus ex machina. So we wanted to launch, and they were looking for something. And for us, it was we positioned our first cabin over there, and there we explained our concept, and that actually we want to move from the hectic city where the cabin was placed to a secret location in nature. And that also brings the word secret for me was now it's part of our USP, but in the beginning it was also not a USP, but an NSP, as I call it, from a necessary survival proposition, because at that time we didn't have any locations.
Yeah, okay.
So we had already our first guests coming in, and we had some plans, but of course a plan is not the reality. It's not materialized. So we couldn't say already from look, you will be staying at that place exactly. So we needed to keep it somehow secret because we were forced to it. And that's how the whole concept got evolving. And it's now like what it is today.
And let me think, because I have multiple ways we can go from here. The secret location thing, how does that work? Because you book a holiday,
yes,
but you don't. You say, I want to go away from the city. I want to go to nature. I want to be disconnected. I want to read, relax with the people that I love in a beautiful nature location.
No. Non-vulnerable, by the way, very important.
Not what?
Non-vulnerable.
Non-vulnerable.
Yeah. So our mission is not only to connect people with nature, meaning that people can have this unique nature experience, but on the other hand also to actively contribute to biodiversity.
Okay.
But nature is, let's say, also the part of our DNA. So respect for nature, but even accelerating, creating nature. So the cabin is just a tool to also work on this bigger dream of involving the broader society and businesses. So not only governments in the make a more nature inclusive environment. So
how does that work? Is it where you place the location, where you place the cabin, the environment around the cabin must be enriched?
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
Okay.
So that on top of it, we enrich environments from our partners. But nature is respect for nature, as I said, and also the active contribution to that.
And how practically, how does that work?
So how does it work? It is So first of all, you analyze the locations. So in the beginning it was rather amateuristic, but now we have really teams of let's say location spotter business developers who are really analyzing all those maps, etc., from A to Z, and then finding the best place where to stay. So it should be nature rich, and so it's inspiring place. And on the other hand, of course, we look at how we can optimally enrich the location. So it's having lots of talks with stakeholders, of course, also our own expertise, and as we have often also those called buffer zones near nature, which are used to be more intensive from agricultural activities. And the whole oxygen debate from nitrogen and stikstof.
In the Netherlands?
In the Netherlands, no, in Belgium even. So it's the topic, let's say, for the future, and it's not only CO2, but also the nitrogen, stikstof.
I think so, yeah.
And the impact on nature itself. So pesticides intensive traditional agriculture activities, which might have a negative impact on nature. And we actually try to bring an additional solution, a new business model for those partners, like farmers who are close to nature, who are actually not able anymore to make their facilities bigger, because it has a negative impact on nature, and we actually try to put our feet in between it, and it's not a negative story; it's a positive story. So we give them additional revenue streams. We help by adding biodiversity. As I said, it could be like additional plants and crops around, or flowers.
You go and plant them at the sites where the cabins are located? Okay, wow.
Where we are permitted, yes. That's how it works. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So you place a cabin on a piece of land that's from a farmer that's indeed limited to its growth because he can't expand anymore because of certain restrictions now on an environmental level. And you give
that's
him
one, but mainly also people want to shift from type of activities. So in the past you had the more traditional, the fairy tale picture of a farmland where you have the cows, many cows. But you see us actually a very big shift also from people who want to do other activities. One of our partners used to be a very intensive farmer, but it's now an ecological farmer, has changed crops from cows to biological potatoes. So also due to the economical sense, but also because his affinity. And that's where we feel most at ease, where you have people, early adopters, who are thinking that way, how also, let's say, the future of agriculture will further evolve. Just have a look at the new agricultural policy. It's completely different than decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, lots of subsidies. I don't know how much of the budget of Europe is being spent on agricultural subsidies. It's enormous.
Yeah, really?
It used to be like above 30% of the budget of the European budget was spent on agriculture. And of course, they're now putting more on just helping those farmers for producing as much as possible, to now also focus on more biodiversity and new business streams and income streams.
Okay. So back to because we digressed a little, which is perfectly fine. But how do if someone who's gonna rent a slow cabin, they know it's located in Belgium, but that's all they know. They choose a weekend.
Yeah, so people book a stay, a slow cabin experience with us, and they got 2 weeks in advance more information of the exact location. So we bring people to new, what we call slow destinations. And for us, a slow destination is a destination which unknown. I mean, not very dense, but also that beautiful. It could be a picturesque countryside, but we love unknown places. Lost places, and that's also the link to the type of tourism that we stand for, which is slow tourism. And it's just not about going to the location and being there, but it's also the journey towards it. And so the whole experience of traveling and taking time for detail and just being there, maybe even doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going to Barcelona or Venice, with more than 3 million sweaty strangers next to you. So going to a place where there's no one or just very few. And mainly in COVID times, it triggered us of the type of mass tourism we used to be in. And we'll see what the world will bring in the future.
Did COVID had an impact on slow cabins? Did it speed up the business? Was there more interest in it?
Yeah, for COVID, for slow cabins, COVID had definitely a rather positive impact on its business. So mainly the travel behavior. Of course, we were also affected negatively by the forced lockdown for the hospitality. But actually, we were even pleading in the beginning of the first lockdown from why should we close our cabins, because they're remote, they're self-sufficient, they're autonomous self-check-in, so it's only for 2 persons or a little family. So you have your own bubble.
Did you need to close?
Sorry, we were forced to close, like every.
No!
Of course, we follow our governmental rules.
Yeah. Oh, how silly!
Yeah. No, but it. We love the post-COVID era because COVID did tackle some maybe absurdities in society. Yeah? So from not absurdities, but take the effect of mass. So people were or even fast instead of rushing around from left to right. People were forced to stay at home and do nothing and just enjoy the time with your beloved ones. And of course, people were not allowed to travel anymore to far destinations, so they need to stay in their neighboring area. So in that sense, local tourism, inclusive tourism has only been boosting, and we consider that also the future of traveling will be definitely also the local aspect.
Yeah, I noticed this in my environment as well. I mean, I think this is going to be the first summer, or maybe already the second summer, that you can travel more broadly again outside of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that a lot of people in my environment, they stay closer to home in comparison when before COVID. Before COVID, you needed to go as far away as possible. And now I really notice that a lot of people are more appreciating Europe and France and Spain and the Netherlands and even Belgium.
That's what I mean with the COVID. It helps to change perspectives. And people were used to have this mechanism, and it speeded up some changes in society, like digitalization, home office. And people were used just to travel around from city to city. And then at the time we said, oh, we can do it virtually. Oh, we can do meetings with Zoom, with Google Hangout. Oh, so it's a completely speeding up of some trends which are looming, which were already there, but they have been just speeding up the process. And so that's what we like, because it also gets rid of absurdities in society, whether it be on mobility, whether it be even on traveling. whether it be also on spending time and just focusing on what's needed.
Indeed.
Nothing to say about all the pains and the awful periods we having. So it's a different.
No, two different things.
Yeah.
I think business travel even now is still only at like 40 to 50% of pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So half of all the business travel that used to happen apparently didn't really need to happen in these times now, indeed, with Zoom and everything. So another question.
We're humans, we can adapt easily.
Yes, apparently. This is true. Neuroplasticity, it's called. No?
Could be.
So
innovate or die.
Yes, Jan Kiekels. Do you know Jan?
No.
He's the owner of Yaga. He was here a couple of weeks ago. He's a very interesting guy. I think you two would get along. Yeah. But another question I had is, when you travel to these secret slow cabin locations, is it always accessible by car, or do you sometimes need to hike a bit before you get
Yes.
Okay.
So actually people cannot just access the place easily with their car and just park it there. That's a concept, and it's like the traditional concept. But no, at first it's more about this experience and journey. So people put their car at this place, and then we help them to walk around a nice piece of land, and then they should just end up and see then after the 15 minutes and being surprised of the location and the cabin. So it's not a traditional just I drive to it, I just put my Samsonite and I walk in. So actually we ask even people to take less materials with them. So less is more also in that sense. Just your partner, which is the most important probably in that case, and then just your toothbrusher and your pyjama. That's it. Mm-hmm. Less is more.
Wonderful. How many cabins are there now today?
Yeah, we have currently more than a dozen being operational in Belgium, and we have been already working from the beginning. Also, we are observing, of course, also the market, our ambition is really also on the European level to create this kind of networks between different countries where you can connect those slow destinations and do some slow traveling. So we have a certain ambition, but let's see where it brings us.
So the ambition is to become a network of slow travel destinations, so that you can travel from cabin to cabin, for example.
Yeah, that would be nice, of course, that you can connect the dots between natural parks or regions which are very, very close to our concept. To promote this kind of slow traveling and nature-driven hospitalities, eco-hospitality. But the overall ambition is, of course, to create, to also push the sector towards more sustainability and another way of thinking and get rid of the excesses of mass tourism, to also have a positive impact on nature and create nature together with society and businesses and biodiversity. Yeah. So that's our overall ambition, as I said. It's the mission of the company is to connect people with nature and to give them this unique experience, and then on the same time to also have a positive impact on the biodiversity and the nature creation.
So it's also possible that at a certain moment in the development of the business, you pivot from only the cabins to like nature experiences, nature trips, nature. Okay.
It reminds me to I think one of our first team sessions. One of our advisors from our board of advisors, he had a picture kind of dashboard and say one of the questions was where either you would like to see yourself within 10 years, and there were some team members who were just writing actually the ultimate dream, the best for slow cabins would be that there is no cabin anymore at any and at any time. So you just have the journey of it, and the cabin is just the tool to achieve the mission.
So no slow cabins, but slow living, slow travel.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great. So is that
that's the dream?
That's the dream. So, like if you put yourself, like you're now 40 something, 40. How old are you now today?
43.
43.
Yeah.
Okay, so
old. Young.
I wouldn't say that's old.
Old, young.
I would not say that's old. But where do you see you, like, if you can imagine yourself at the end of your career, what do you hope to achieve with this business at the end of it? Is it really like the slow living as a new normal, or what's if you really go crazy, if budget is not an issue, for example, what's the
that you push,
goal?
As I said, on the one hand, maybe the hospitality sector towards more nature-driven hospitality concept, that the sector also becomes much more sustainable, or more, they know what we're using and the impact of specific decisions. Just take the example, a couple of years ago, there was common sense, all those disposables from in hotel rooms, what used to be, it's still necessary, so that you can help inspire also traditional partners to change perspectives. And on the other hand, as I said, of course, this way of traveling, to promote slow travel, it's just going to new places and explore, enjoy the benefits of just traveling. So it's not the destination as such at the end, but it's the journey towards it, which is very important.
It's a beautiful goal. I hope you achieve it.
Yeah.
You've been going at it now for 7 years?
Yes. Yeah.
What?
No, you mean for slow cabins?
Yes, for slow cabins.
Nearly 5 years operational.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what have been the biggest lessons you've learned up to now?
It's a good question. I think, on the personal level, I would definitely say if I restart doing a business, I would definitely do it with an additional partner. So I used to do it myself because I was forced in that situation. So that's definitely something what I would do different. And that was your question. Somehow
the biggest lessons.
The biggest lessons. And also that you really need to persist. So by perseverance, how do you call it? The snail reaches the ark. That's one of my famous proverbs. But it means that for setting up a new business, a new concept, you need very big perseverance. So it's not that easy. But at the end, it pays off. It's very rewarding. That's also a journey.
That's what you often hear, or what I've heard or I've read from like successful entrepreneurs who sell the business or they're on pension, and they look back and they always say, of what I've heard, of what I've read, is that the times that you're really going through it all, in the moment it's so difficult and it sucks at times, and you become desperate even at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back at it all, that's gonna be the times that you remember the most and are actually looking back on with the most fond memories. Which I always find it like comforting to hear when they say it, but when you're in the middle of it all, it can also just still suck.
Yeah. And we should be able to also say it. That's the reality. It's not that rosy.
No. No, and as you said before, now you hear more and more the idea of like everyone needs to become an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Which is as such very good, but
I don't fully agree with it. I find it a bit strange. I mean, I can understand that entrepreneurship, if you define it as like taking action and don't sit and wonder about things, but start doing something. I fully agree on every aspect. Even inside an organization, there can be and there should be probably more entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But to say that everyone needs to become an entrepreneur, I find it a little bit silly.
No. Everybody's got his own strengths and passions.
Yes.
You should just follow the passion. Everybody's own ikigai, and for the one it's being an entrepreneur, for the other one it's just being a teacher, or just working even in an administration. It is like it is.
Indeed.
But hopefully with less administration.
Okay. Anything else that I haven't touched on specifically on the slow cabin story that's interesting to explain or to mention to our audience, Xavier? Because now I'm going to pivot a little bit more to some personal questions.
Okay. No, for slow cabins, it's mainly this off-grid experiences where we have been focusing a lot on, and it's for us the most difficult, because it's also one of the lessons. But slowness is sometimes also an issue in terms of regulation, and that's something that we are often facing a lot. That we want to achieve a specific goal, but it's not that easy to achieve it because maybe the society or part of the society is not ripe for it. We even have this ongoing discussions from that some people think that we want to replace agriculture, that we're attacking agriculture, because if we place temporary a slow cabin at a non-vulnerable agricultural place, that we are that we're just reducing the amount of agriculture and not helping the farmer. Actually, it's the farmer who wants to shift to this other way of farming. So regulation and stakeholders are sometimes very slow, and it's very difficult to convince them.
Yeah, sounds recognizable. We got into the same issues. If you know that in Brussels, for example, today it's 2.5 years to get a building permit as a developer.
But they're working on it.
I hope. I hope. I hope. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We have a couple of more minutes. Do you see how the market itself, do you see it evolve? The market that you're active in now, do you see competitors coming up? Do you?
Yes. Yeah, actually, we see some competitors in Europe. Actually, the news, what we called cabin tech startups. So we have a few one around Berlin now, around London. We have in the Netherlands one. And actually, from the 3 out of the 4, they were actually guests. So they visited us. Really? Concrete. So we don't see it as a problem. It's actually kind of, we have the same mission, and we see that this kind of concept is being spread over on the European continent, and it's a very big market, and we only claim or aim to claim a little piece of it, so that's no problem. So indeed, competition is growing, but it's also the mindset is changing. So it's actually good for us that we have more people with the same mission of creating more nature-inclusive eco-hospitality concepts, and and that they also want to have a positive impact on nature.
It's even a bit of a compliment, if people visit slow cabins and they start it themselves. It's
but of course you need to prove the business model, and then that's always but by perseverance the snail will reach the ark. Okay.
Then maybe to round off, we always have a couple more personal focused questions. So maybe to start with, if you had to do a job that had nothing to do with what you're doing today, so no slow cabins, any idea what you would be doing?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, maybe just working in nature, being a farmer, just your idyllic place somewhere in the mountain, and yeah, but that is that a job?
You can be a goat herder.
If you are self-sufficient, you're caring for your own little community, your family. So you're not dependent anymore of all food, and that's so you can just have your own self-sufficient life.
So a farmer up in the mountains.
Yes.
Sounds great. Maybe another one, maybe a bit more tricky, but I think it's a fun question. What's the kindest thing that anyone has ever done for you?
Another thing. What's the kindest thing that someone has done?
Yeah, the kindest thing that someone has done for you throughout your life. Is there like a specific example? If you don't come up with something, we just cut it out.
Yeah, so maybe then you often go to your own little family circle, and so
Perfectly fine.
When your kids are just making from school a little drawing and with some nice words, it's extremely it sounds cliche, but it's always heartwarming. But that's more personal.
Okay. If you could have a drink with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Yeah, I used to. My big, let's say, maybe it's also cliche, but example has been also Steve Jobs. I mean, I don't know if you have heard ever this 2005 is the typical commencement Stanford.
Oh yeah, I listened to that.
Yeah, okay. So. Do what you love to do.
Stay hungry.
Stay foolish. But I think from that speech also, what has been saying, and I think it was very sincere. He really want to bring out this message towards also young graduates. From it may see all kind of rosy what he has been doing at that time, because at that time Steve Jobs was also hit by cancer, so he knew that his end was close by, and I found it extremely inspiring how this kind of wisdom, I would say, life wisdom he had, and that he can just confer it to a young generation of students. From don't get trapped in this traditional way from you have studied this, you should do that, just follow your own ikigai, and that I really admire that kind of person. So Steve Jobs, definitely.
Yeah, I can only agree to that. I listened to that speech as well so many times when I was 20, 21 years old, and I very vividly remember that it also tremendously inspired me. And there are other speeches from him as well, and also when I read his biography from Walter Isaacson, like there are moments in these speeches that he also, when he was just giving a talk somewhere at a university, I don't even know that he was aware that he was being filmed, but he was saying things like, when you grow up as a child, you don't really think about it, but when you grow up and you look around and you see all the world that we formed around us, which is completely, we live in cities, we live in buildings, you think that these buildings and these concepts and these businesses are built by people who are smaller or more capable than you. And he says, and I remember it very clearly the first time when I heard him say that, no, that's not true. Like everything that you see around you is created by people who are not more smart or more capable than you are. I was like, whoa.
It's an eye-opening.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that also means that, I mean, it can also work a bit like frightening, because the message that's beneath that is you can change the world and you can change the world around you and you can have an impact. That's the thing that's being communicated in a less direct way. But I also very vividly remember that really hitting home when I heard them say that the first time.
Who's your hero?
For me?
Yeah.
It's very cliche, but I would say I've multiple. I've been inspired by multiple of these people throughout my relatively young life. I would say the first time I really got hit home by someone, and the message that they were saying was when I was 18, and I read The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama and Howard C. Cutler. So Howard C. Cutler was an American psychologist, actually the director and chair of the psychology organization in America, and they always look everything from a really clinical perspective and everything science-based. But he ran into the limits of that approach, and in I think the 90s or early 2000s, he got inspired and he got accepted to do a multi-week or even multi-month interview session with His Holiness the Dalai Lama from the Buddhist religion. And I was 18 years old, and I was just I came to a point that I was, okay, what's the use of life? Why? What's the goal? What you should aim for? And I started reading some books, and I ran into that book, and it's written by Howard C. Cutler, who then interviewed the Dalai Lama, but from a really Western perspective, and he translates these Buddhist religious beliefs that have been existing for thousands of years into a really easy, in a really easy way, and a really how do you say this? Something that you really understand it as a Western person. And I really very vividly remember, like, okay, it's very, after reading that book, for me it was done. It's very clear what the goal is. It's to be happy, and it's to avoid suffering. And the way to become happy is to do good to others. And then you should try to do as much good given the gifts that you've been given as a person. So look and see why do I get energy from? What intrigues me? What fascinates me? Follow that energy and try to do and use those gifts in the best possible way.
Get rid of all the negative monkeys on your shoulders.
Yes, of course, it's very more easily said than done. But that was one. Then Steve Jobs. Last couple of years, I've also been tremendously inspired by Elon Musk. He's a bit more controversial, but I think the speed and the impact that he's having on a global scale is going to be tremendously positive, I believe. But he's quite controversial character. Okay. Maybe a final one. We've talked a lot about traveling and slow travel, but is there maybe like one specific place where you've been to in the past that you really can recommend to the listeners? Hopefully that they don't go all at once, because then the slow, maybe beautiful aspect of that destination is also gone. But is there a specific destination that you can recommend for people to visit?
That's a personal choice. So I'm very affected to mountains, as I said, and specifically also to Switzerland in the Surselva region, which is not very famous, which is actually in this Grison Graubünden area, where you have also very hidden gem spots, like Valimnetia, Tal des Lichts. So probably nobody knows. There is many other places like that, and I feel really at home when being there. So because you have nearly no tourists, just locals, and it's also very funny because it's a retro-Romansk area, and retro-Romansk is also a language you're not used to hear. It's also funny that it's they have the highest. Someone told me recently they have the highest number of chapels per capita. So there is about, I think, 1,600 whatever inhabitants, locals, and then more than 70 chapels and churches.
Okay, that's overkill.
No, but when I'm there, I also always feel at home.
Switzerland, in the mountains.
In the mountains.
Wonderful, sounds great. Okay, Xavier, then I think we can round it off for a part 1. Maybe in the future, you would like to come back to explain a little bit more about the journey that you're going through with Slow Cabins. I can only speak for myself, of course, but I find it a really beautiful concept, especially even more than that, now that I've learned a little bit more about the approach and how you're positioning these destinations so beautifully in the environment that they're standing in. So I think it's a really beautiful story that gets all of the attention and praise that it's getting.
Now we've got also before this session we had also very nice personal chat. So you see that I didn't actually know Bao Living before. Even did not know actually how it works, and you also as entrepreneur. So it's very very interesting and good to find on your paths unknown mind like it be persons. Huh? No,
Indeed,
thank you too.
Definitely.
Bye.
Okay, thank you very much, Xavier. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Bao Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you're interested in Bao Living in our Smart Adaptable Module or SAM, go check out our website baoliving.com. If you want to stay up to date, you can best subscribe to our monthly newsletter on our website or follow us on all social media platforms where we're named @Bao Living.